Hey, what's up everybody? Toney here, and today we're going to be doing another artist critique video. The artist we're going to be working with is Explicit Scorpio. He's one of my followers on Instagram. Really cool guy. Asked me for some advice. So instead of just writing on his picture, I felt like it'd be a lot better for me to make one of these videos. Hopefully this will help him and you in figuring out a couple things that you may find wrong with your artwork. So, to start off, let's talk about all the things that are really working here. A couple of things that I really like and I really enjoy is the fact that his character feels like it has weight. So you have this female, she seems to be sitting on a dresser drawer with this beautiful ornate mirror behind her, or seems like something may be growing from this ledge. And it really feels like she's sitting on it. And I think because you're getting this gestural line here that shows that her back is kind of bent out, and showing a little bit of compression here on her back, and that looks really nice, and you get that curve from here and here, and that's where you're kind of really getting that idea. Secondly, what Explicit Scorpio did really well is the shoulder to hip ratio. A lot of artists, when they start off and they're drawing females, they tend to mix this up. Not mix it up, but it's really hard to get right away and to keep in different perspectives. That's another thing. Once you change perspectives, if you don't understand simple shapes, then you tend to lose the female form. He also has very soft penmanship, or not penmanship, but a very soft pen here, and that's something you need to keep in mind when you're drawing the female form. Is you have to think about this character being a lot smoother and softer and not so many hard edges. Also has the face perspective is actually working fairly well, just the way the head is turned, the way it's kind of sitting on the body, and so on and so forth. A couple things that don't seem to be working right now, or that he could work on, is one, the anatomy is a little bit off, and so you have this shoulder is dropped down, further than the arm that's in the background, and then you also have your arm is a little too long. The elbow should generally stop right where the rib cage, or at the bottom of the rib cage. So right now your arm seems a little bit hyperextended, like back, and then it's kind of coming forward into space again, and that's something that the more you practice and you work with anatomy, you'll tend to get, but you have to start thinking about that in other perspectives. Another thing is with the shoulders, your perspective is a little bit off. Now you brought the shoulder forward and it's kind of lower, and then you kind of have your breast coming this way, and so you have your breasts are a little bit uneven, and that's something that you may be looking at and being like, man, I don't know why this isn't working. And I feel like these are a couple things that may be a little bit off, and if you work on them, then everything else will tend to fall into place. So because the perspective seems a little bit off, what I'm going to do is I like to lay down a perspective line, especially when I'm trying to work in a 3/4 view that has me a little bit confused. And let me just see if I can lay something down over your character really quickly. And see if I can get like a nice feel. Yeah. Oh yeah, I like that. Okay. All right. And we're gonna say, let's say the horizon line is like right here. Sorry if I sound a little bit congested, guys. I'm not feeling well. That's why the video is 2 days late. Took me a lot of energy to try to do this video, and to be honest, this is like my 4th try because everything in the world keeps trying to stop me and everything is trying to break. So excuse me for that. So now that we got the perspective lines laid down a little bit, because this is a pretty difficult pose even for me right now, I'm actually going to lay down a couple of simple shapes. So first I'm going to lay down the rib cage as a box in 3D space. This is something that you should definitely practice all the time. A lot of people will say you should practice this before you start drawing people and everything else like that, but that's not necessarily fun. And so we want to try to draw characters and everything else like that, and I'm not going to say don't draw characters, but you really need to practice your simple forms and simple shapes here. So now that I lay down the rib cage, I'm actually just going to draw a little bit of a gesture line here so that way I can get some more fluidity going. And I just generally when I put a gesture line down, I find that it gives me a lot more energy. So now because we're under the horizon line, I'm actually going to show the top of this box, which is the pelvis, and I'm going to pull that pelvis back a little bit. I want to get that same curvature that you have in your image, which I find that works really well. That's making the character seem like she's sitting on an object. I'm going to make her rib cage a little bit smaller. And as you can see, I'm laying down a lot of lines. Now, you just don't have to do that digitally. You should be laying down a lot of lines, soft lines, if you're working traditionally. It tends to help with a lot of happy accidents that would happen, and also it gives you a lot more energy. And you should be working lightly and with a lot more energy anyway, because then that gives your work a lot more energy. It gives your character a certain level of life. So I'm just going to start here with this puppet form. Now, whenever I come across a piece of art that I'm trying to do a study for, or I'm trying to learn a specific gesture, I will do this puppet. I don't think any artist is above the puppet. I tend to see a lot of, really good artists still go back to it. It's just something that you should really learn and know, because there's going to come a time where you get hit. If you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, there's going to be a time where you get hit with some really difficult poses. And the best way to break down these difficult poses is to use simple forms. So his arm's a little long here. I know the rib's going to end right here, so I want to end my elbow right here. And I want to get that arm behind me. I have the hand come out a little bit. And I'm bending the arm because it's giving me a little bit more weight there. This is something I've learned. A good friend of mine, Senior Antonio, turned me on to a couple of quick gesture drawing videos, and it's really helped me figure out how much space a character kind of takes up, as well as the weight and the emotion of the character. That's why you see me moving very quickly and laying down a lot of lines, because I want the life of my pen stroke to come into the life of my character. So this is a very nice drawing, and Explicit Scorpio sent me a couple different drawings, and this is the one I chose because I felt like it was one of the ones that was a little bit simpler, and I wasn't gonna have to do like an hour video to break it down and stuff like that. But also, I find that I get a lot of questions about how I go about drawing females and how I think about the female form, and I felt like this would not only help him, but help everybody else too, who seems to be a little bit confused, or maybe you're a seasoned artist, or you've been drawing for a while, and you just kind of hear something that makes you go, "Oh, wow, I didn't think of it that way," and that happens for me all the time on a regular basis. So now that I've laid down this rough, and it is rough, I'm going to just lightly go over, lightly erase over all these very hard lines. Let me just lay down the hair. As you can see, I'm moving very quickly with the hair. I want a lot of energy. I want to try to get the same energy that Explicit has, but I want to give it a little bit more of a flow. All right. Now, let's clean this up a little bit. Now, as you can see, it's very, very light, and I'm actually going to be taking some liberties here. So this is just a guideline. There's a couple things that I want to kind of slim up. There's a couple things I want to smooth out. One, I want to start kind of making a concave line For the neck, I want the neck to seem a little slender. I want that to smoothly transition into the shoulder. I personally have a problem with really feminizing characters and my whole softness and fluidity. So in this video, I'm also going to be working to really fix that issue. Feeling the same way with the arms. I'm making arms a little bit more concaved in and trying to stick to that softness. Man, this cold is it's really kicking my butt. Now here, before I had the ribs out here, and that is way too far. That means her back would be like all the way out here. Don't want to do that. So this is one of the points where I'm going to take liberties, and I'm going to slim this up a little bit. And I do want that waist to still go all the way out. I still want that level of like the voluptuousness of the character, the curves from her. And you know, you don't have to be kind of married to these lines. They're guides for a reason. They're just making sure you don't go out of control. And so because I'm doing the pants, and the pants are below the horizon line, which is right here, all my curves are going downward. Like if you were thinking of a smiley face, smiley face is below the horizon line, frowny face is above the horizon line. And that's kind of my own little thing that I like to do. And that just helps me. I'll do that on the side because sometimes I'll forget and I just won't be thinking, which is not that good when you're in the middle of drawing. You should always be thinking. So, do these jeans here. I'm making the wrinkles and folds really hard because I'm not going to be coloring this, and I feel like when you are doing studies of jeans, you get these very hard folds because from the jean material. So that's why my folds on the jeans tend to be very, very strong, accentuated. Now I'm going to work in conjunction with some of those gesture lines I had before to lay down a simple breakdown of her breasts. Obviously, her breasts are not these big circular shapes. They actually should be a little bit more fluid, but I like to do that. That just gives me a general area, and then I'll go in and I'll smooth these out, and I'll make it kind of almost I picture kind of these filled up with water. Let's drop this down here. We're gonna do a little shape for the ribs. Bring the waist in, back out for the hips. Now, for women that are a little bit thin or let's say athletic or fit, I like to show that the pelvic bone, and I believe it's called the ilium, and then I also like to do the little fatty deposit here for the stomach. Every woman is built differently. Same way every man is built differently. So this is just my technique that I'm doing right now for your character. But keep in mind there's a bunch of different variations, and you should practice them all in order to have a better lexicon, a better skill set for character design. I'm not going to focus too hard on this backhand. Here. A little bit of a thumb, finger. Just end that off like that. Now the next thing I like to add in, and I could have added this earlier, is collarbone. The collarbone I'm being very suggestive, so I'm not laying down a lot of hard lines. I'm not doing anything that's too definitive, because when you're drawing a female character, unless you really want her to be muscular and stuff like that and to have kind of this masculine feel, then you really want to stay away from adding too many details, making the character too muscular. As you can see here on this arm, you still get the idea that it's an arm. And if I add this a little bit here, you still get the idea that, okay, she has a little bit of muscle and stuff like that. But the moment you start going into detail and doing this and everything else, she kind of becomes a little bit masculine. So we want to kind of steer clear of that, especially in this type of image. If she looked a little bit muscular, I would have kind of gone with that and pushed that. And there are a lot of comics, mangas, and manhwas that actually do that. So something cool to consider. Alright, now I'm just doing the shirt. And we'll add some wrinkles here for the shirt. So just type here and we'll give it a little bit of a midriff. Now I drew the pectoral, this little fold right here, and that's basically where your pec meets your shoulder. And I feel like whenever I do this line when I'm drawing a female, it really makes her feel a lot more realistic. It really makes her feel like she fits in the space. And I always will draw through no matter what the costume or outfit or clothing or attire is, because I feel like it really adds some life to the character. There are a bunch of little details when you're drawing that just add a little bit of life to a character. Just give it that extra added edge. Here we go. And now here's another liberty I'm actually going to take. I'm going to widen her head out a little bit. And I'm going to go a little bit softer on her chin. And make her head slightly larger because of her body here. I saw that when I was drawing, and so now this feels a little bit better to me. So buzz cut here. Now, once I jump to the hair, as I was saying before when I was originally doing it, I want to start getting looser. I'm going to back out a little bit, and I'm going to start trying to get a lot more energy into that hair. A friend of mine, Dorothy Blunt, is really good at drawing hair, amazingly good at drawing hair. She does this kind of Shujo Chibi style. It's kind of her own thing. And whenever she draws hair, I'm always so amazed because it just comes out so well, and I find it's very hard for me to do hair, to be honest. Something I haven't practiced a lot of, and I'm going to have to probably spend a couple months just working on something like hair. So jumping into this face a little bit, very quickly, I like to lay down the eye line, which I find I put on the bottom third of the circle of the head, or in this case, I'm just kind of putting it right in the middle. And in your image, her eyebrows are a little bit thicker. Just for my style's sake, I'm going to go with something that's a little bit more tweezed, and I'm going to make her eyebrows a little bit thinner. But all women are different, and all your characters should be different, so don't necessarily worry about that. That is a style thing for me. And I'm just going to break into my own eye style here. Here for her piercing. Alright. And actually, let me take the wrinkle off the face. This is what I mean by just adding too much detail. And you just kind of have to keep that in mind. Like, you don't want to go too heavy on the details. I'm actually going to give her a wider nose, the nose that you kind of had in your image. And I'm thinking that she is some form of a nationality, some form of ethnic nationality. So I'm really going to accentuate her figure and her form and stuff like that. And that's just something that I normally do as a technique. And working here on the mouth, the edges of the mouth I like make meet the center of the eye. That is not my own thing, or that is not my technique. That is a technique I got from the Andrew Loomis book about drawing heads and faces, and it's just simple for me. But everybody has their own style. Everybody has their own form. So I'm just going to work with that today as I do her lips. And we're going to make her mouth open just a little bit. And this reminds me of kind of like a more Western comic-y style, which I started in. And that's kind of where my first love is. Even though I'm, really into anime and manga now, that's really where my base was. So let's work on this eye. Get here. And I know you have the other eye kind of hidden, but I'm going to work it in a little bit. There we go. And we're just going to shadow that off. One of my favorite things I like to do is I like to do this little neck shadow. When I learned this neck shadow, it was just awesome for me because I felt like no matter how bad my characters were, it always felt like the head had a certain level of depth. It always felt like the head fit into a certain level of space, and I just loved that. In retrospect, I would definitely work this neck out and her shoulders a little bit more, because right now it seems a little bit long. All right, just clean this up a little bit more. Let's go to a harder eraser. All right. Now we're cooking with gas. There we go. Let's just add a wrinkle there, and that will give our character a little bit more life. All right, there you have it. My artist critique of Explicit Scorpio. So I hope you guys liked the video. I hope it was informative. I hope it helped. If you have any suggestions, just leave a comment. I definitely take a look at them, and I consider them. I have a lot of videos lined up from a lot of people that I've been following and stuff like that, so I will get to them. And Explicit Scorpio, check him out on Instagram. He's growing, gets better on a day-to-day basis. Thank you for watching.